tell me where in your long and eventful life you decided to start the book.
I decided to write initially about my dad, who died last year, age 101.
Wow.
And he spent the last 3 years of his life lying on his back in a care home, unable to move at all, but totally succinct, and totally with us until towards the end.
Yeah.
And I thought he deserved to have those 3 years used wisely. And so I started recording it and writing it down.
Just asking him questions?
Asking questions and watching and observing him, and then relating his situation at the age of 100, 101 to my memories of him. And that then took me back to childhood, of course, and also his influence on me, because he was, as somebody said recently, a sort of Victorian socialist. He was very conventional on one side, and middle class, and on the other side, he was very radical. He was one of the first Allied doctors to enter Bergen-Belsen.
Wow.
He took in to his home in South London Hungarian refugees after the Hungarian Revolution. He was a member of CND. I went on my first Aldermaster March with him. So he was a big influence to me. So it started with him. And from there it went back to my childhood, through my life on its various adventures. Until ended up in this room, as you know.
Yes.
When we first met.
Yes, which was 22 years ago, something, was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was 22 years ago.
And yes, as I recall, it was via Anthea, actually.
It was via Anthea. Yeah. Anthea walked into the War Child office that would have been 22 years ago, with a donation for working with children in Bosnia, music, and of course that brought us to you. And then you, as I talk about a lot in the book, you and Anthea became the inspiration for what became the Pavarotti Music Centre in Mostar.
I think Anthea's idea was to connect War Child up with the music business, which she successfully did, actually.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of money sloshing around in the music business, and it was all going to one charity.
Yeah, we won't mention the name.
But the music business had decided they had their charity.
Yeah.
And it was quite a small NGO, and it was getting millions and millions of pounds a year.
Yeah, it was.
So the idea was to try to just divert a bit of that.
Yeah, well, you did it very successfully, the two. Yeah.
And so is the bulk of the book about the middle part of...
The bulk of the book, I don't know the actual percentage, but I mean there are quite a few chapters about War Child. There's about the fundraising events that you and Anthea and Opal did, 3 or 4 massive fundraising events.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit about that, about the beginnings of War Child, about the Pavarotti Music Centre, about the sad sort of collapse of War Child, which you were very much a supporter of me with. But it talks about other things, my time as a filmmaker, art dealer, going to South America at the age of 16, first sexual adventures in Brazil, and so on and so on.
Several chapters on that.
I try and get over it quite quickly because I'm not particularly proud of it.
14
my
chapters.
Initiation into that part of my life. And then, and so on, until it reaches today, and here we are now. And the book actually ends with my father again.
Okay.
It comes full circle.
Yeah. And was your father aware that you were doing this to write a book?
He was very aware, and he both wanted to hear something of it and didn't. He was an extraordinarily modest man. He was editor of The Lancet, for example. I remember when he was on BBC Radio in those days, he would always say, "You must not mention my name. You must just say I'm the editor of The Lancet."
Really?
So I think he read, he would have been very pleased about some of the things I read, but I don't think he would have been pleased to be mentioned at all.